space, not the planes in the sky, not the ships at sea, nor the vehicles on the ground.
Ecto Radio. The ghost hunting badasses.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
Only on the Supernatural Radio Network. Beer-fueled, whiskey-filtered paranormal radio.
Okay, welcome to Ecto Radio on the Hitman. Last week we had an interesting conversation. We had to cut it off because it's going to be a long one. So we're continuing in that. We have the same panel of people as we had last week. We have Racer, of course, over here to my left. And also in the studio, we have Bubba Sane.
Ta-da-da! Baba Lish.
That's right, bitches. I'm back.
And next to him, Zero Voorhees.
Yeah, that's right. King of Crystal Lake. The king of Crystal Lake, baby. All hail the king.
Oh, gosh. Okay, whatever.
Just ignore this table from now on. You'll probably be safe.
Yeah, well, you guys are at the bar. I got to give you props for that.
You
and,
put
of
me in front
course,
of it.
back in the corner for our protection, whatever, is Wicked Wendy.
That's right. Always put Wendy in the corner.
Well, it's kind of like secured back there. We know that you can't get out and get us.
Yeah.
And on the phone, we have Greg again.
Yes, I'm here again.
Yay.
Hey, Greg.
Hey.
All right, so where did we leave off? We left off. We're not even a quarter of the way through this.
No.
This is an actual train wreck of epic proportions. It really is.
Yeah. So if you missed the previous podcast, there is a group on Facebook called Worst Paranormal.
And they
do peer reviews of other groups and what they're doing. And there was kind of a call of, hey, does anybody want to submit their group?
No, that's not actually what they said. What they said was, I bet you not 1 in 100 groups would submit their own stuff for review.
Yes, we did.
They dropped the gauntlet, and we said, okay, we'll pick that shit up.
Yeah. Done. Done and done.
So where did we leave off, Racer?
We left off with Miss Angela, who in the whole conversation, her and one other person, are the only ones that are actually asking legitimate questions and making comments that make sense.
That's right.
Attempting to do a true peer review. And Wicked Wendy.
I am reading the part of Angela.
Yes.
You should be reading the part of Angela.
Yes,
tonight.
I will. She says, I have only read about 4 of the experiments so far. I think it is good to show that even with repeated experimentations, the results yielded that equipment, such as dowsing or pendulums, don't do anything to give answers about the unknown. However, I do have some questions about the testing done at repetition of reported incidents in allegedly haunted locations. While you note that some had an explanation, it seemed that you favor the result to read that reported paranormal activity repeats behavior. You then state that some of these incidents were found to be explainable. If you pardon me for saying so, how does explainable data get mixed in with unknown and yield any kind of a conclusion? And I also notice that while you managed to tell Haunted that what you thought of his tooth fairy comment, you really didn't answer the question as to the bias of calling something unknown.
Okay.
I think we did explain that.
Yeah, well, actually, we get
already hopped on it last
to it a little
week.
bit further down here. In fact, this entire next page is all Haunted Australia. Do we really need to read the whole thing?
No, it's...
Okay, I think
Kind
that
of like diarrhea. I'm sorry.
Paraphrase.
This is my opinion. Zero. If you'll skip the first post that he put and just read the second one, it kind of sums it up. Yeah.
Skip this top one and then go to the bottom one?
Next to the next one.
Paraphrase?
Yes.
I'm a dipshit. Next.
So Starbury says provide proof that follows protocols.
That qualify as such that an EMF has any connection with the paranormal. This dude's quotation keys on his board have got to be worn out by now. You'd think, but... And then move on to experimenting with gadgets. Audio is compressed. Audio is further compressed when converted to digital format. Audio. I was just thinking of last weekend. Audio is compressed even more depending on the file format chosen. So a ghost speaking via MP3 will be understood in wave format? ? Yeah, because that's what we do. Is there any spirits with us tonight? Please respond MP3.
Okay, so, Greg?
Yes.
This obviously is showing the level of, how should I put it, knowledge that our
This is what happens when Australians smoke kiwi.
Can you explain what's just so wrong with that statement?
Well, actually, if you could get, there's the one further where he goes back to the audio and talking about the digitization and stuff. Can you read that one, Zero? Do you know which one I'm talking about? It's kind of following along that same line.
Oh, okay. Both have different methods of compression?
It was another one of his postings where he talks about how the spirits have to be able to digitize their voices.
Oh,
okay.
Ways.
All right, give me 1 second. Let's see.
Are you talking about where it says, so basically a ghost...
Yeah, that's exactly where I was at. So basically a ghost must be able to convert their voice to a digital medium, compress its voice into a file format, and deliver it directly to your microphone.
Yeah, right. And that's just like, what is this guy talking about?
And there he is.
I mean, there's nobody that's saying anything even close to that, and it shows his lack of understanding. One, how digitization and the whole thing of taking even an audio voice recording works. I mean, he doesn't even understand how microphones and analog to digital conversion and how your computer records things. And so it's just like he's off the rails here completely.
Roger that. Yeah.
So that right there is,
it doesn't even go anywhere.
Talking about this, about a year ago, David Roundtree was talking about, let's actually make a formal peer review process for groups doing research. And so we set up a little, what's the thing on Yahoo group? And so the discussion started, and we started laying out what are the rules of engagement. One was being professional, no name calling, address the fact, solely the fact that you wish to dispute, and then how the rebuttal process works.
You mean everything this guy did not do?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is, to his credit, this is the way it should be done. It needs to be done professionally. But then we got to the point of what qualifies somebody to be a reviewer of the stuff being submitted. Well, we're a hobby. We're not a professional field. There's not enough known about it, to make it so. Therefore, there's no determined course of study. Thus, that's why we have different views of opinion of what's paranormal, what's not, blah, blah, blah. But beyond that, you start getting into, okay, well, what do we have? Well, the only thing we can rely on is a person's degree. Their knowledge in a specific field that we know that you're someone that has taken the course of study is knowledgeable about, and they can argue that one point. In David's instance, he has an audio engineering degree. Therefore, in that one area, he can speak as a knowledgeable individual. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, I mean, if we're talking electromagnetism, you need someone with a degree in physics that understands the principles of electromagnetism beyond the basic little stuff. You know what I'm saying? So the problem with this in relating to this peer review is we just had someone that is piping up that obviously doesn't have that knowledge, who's reviewing our research.
Right, and and it's funny because I don't mean to take Zero's part here, but he says, and dude, I always give credit where credit is due, and I'll let you know when credit is headed your way. But it's funny how there's a point in this conversation where Bob the Sane does lay the gauntlet down. He's like, well, okay, let me know what your experience is. What is your research? Mm-hmm. And this guy, they say nothing.
Nothing. No.
Greg does it too.
Right.
Yeah.
What are your credentials? And they don't.
And we don't actually come out.
We don't actually do that because I think that's kind of an asshole thing to do myself.
But you know what, Greg? I mean, you've seen honest peer reviews before. They always do that. It's you're establishing, here's my knowledge base, I can talk on this subject because, here's my education, here's, So
what it is it's a scientific form of whip it out, see who's got the longest one.
Yeah, well, I mean, in real peer review, I mean, you usually have an editor involved, and he'll pick who's going to be the peer reviewer. And and he'll pick people who he knows are knowledgeable, or he'll look at your reference list and pick people off your reference list to kind of look at what you've done and that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's not like, well, let's go out to the man on the street and show him this and see what he thinks.
Exactly. And that's kind of one of the things why when this was submitted, we were talking about this many weeks ago, and well, I say many weeks, a couple months actually. And we vaguely mentioned on the show that there really cannot be an honest peer review of paranormal stuff on the level of where ghost hunters are. All we can do is submit things up and let the actual peer review be done by
real
knowledgeable
scientists.
people.
Yeah, and that's where the people run into trouble, is because they're going to submit their schlock science to real scientists who are going to immediately tear it apart, and then they get their butts all hurt. Oh, they just mean they just don't hurt. They just don't want to face the truth. No, the truth you don't want to face is you don't know science.
Now, there's an interesting twist. Greg actually gives a reference of a group that would potentially, if it was done well, actually be willing to review this kind of research.
Well, okay, those groups do exist, and actually, I mean, hell, you and I spoke in front of New Mexicans for Science and Reason, NMSR.
Yeah.
Skeptic group, hardcore scientists who took what we were telling them and said, all right, you guys don't suck, you're actually trying to do real science, we'll help you.
And that's what they did, they offered their help.
But
that group that Greg, what was it, Society?
It's the Society of Scientific Exploration.
Right.
You'll notice what he does then is he starts ridiculing them, and that's how this whole thing kind of ends.
Well, the whole thing ends when I call him out on his poisoning the well subset of the ad hominem logical fallacy. I called him out on exactly that and said, I can give you references to what you're doing and why you're wrong. And anyway, we'll get to that point. That's like way at the end.
Yeah, we're getting there.
That's like in, 3 or 4 weeks? I got to keep coming back here and drink with you guys for 3 or 4 weeks? Really?
Well, we like to keep you around.
Duck.
I don't know if I can handle it.
I can't handle it. I'm going to go broke buying beer.
My liver's going to turn to stone. The Medusa of beer.
Where are we at?
So at this point, we're at Bob's first response.
Oh, are we?
Yay.
Oh, I got to read that. What did I say?
You were still being nice at that
Oh,
point.
here I am. No, that's the first one.
Come
Where
on.
the hell are we?
You're talking to Angela. That's the very first one.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Because she's the one worthy of a response.
Right. And she's
Be honest.
worthy of it.
All right, fine. I'll read this response, and I'll try not to put too much dripping sarcasm in it. But no, I won't. Anyone who's ever listened to the show for any length of time knows that I won't. Okay, Angela, it seems to me that the answer did explain what was meant by unknown, but it's kind of buried in the noise. Haunted Australia? I'm sorry, man, but you sure do come across as a classic internet troll. You didn't get the rise you expected from your initial hostility, so now you're going to ratchet it up. Your analysis might be spot on once that paper referred to gets published, but I, for one, am unlikely to trust your response as anything other than someone looking to offend people for some petty online power trip. In short, you're a bit of a dick. And I, for one, don't care to read any more of your spew. If someone can provide some thoughtful analysis of the aforementioned paper SGHA will produce, I would love to read that. I don't think Haunted is particularly interested in doing so. Mostly he bellyaches over the state of, quote, the field, unquote, like this is a serious endeavor when it's a goddamn hobby, people.
Amen.
Yeah.
And that's
Bitch.
basically what we were just talking about. You're saying, well, and we even talked about...
Sorry, I said goddamn. I should have said the correct word because I busted out my nerd here. It's a Goram hobby.
Well, it is.
Win.
And that's okay. It's okay that it's that. And I don't know why... I really do think that's kind of a problem. People... It's okay to take the hobby seriously, but understand it's a hobby.
Well, and later on in one of my responses, I explained why this is a hobby and why this
it
cannot be considered real science. But it's like, they get their knickers in a knot because they don't they like to take themselves more seriously than the rest of the world is going to.
Right.
It's not going to happen until we can actually have reproducible results in a controlled environment that, the rest of the scientific world agrees is valid. We're hobbyists.
Yeah.
And we're crank hobbyists at best. We might be crank hobbyists who are trying to be scientific, and good on us. We're not quite as bad as the rest of the guys, but we're still crank hobbyists. This is the truth. I don't like it, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. So, do I get to play the part of the hitman?
Sure. But you gotta say it like Cody. You gotta be
I think I
boobies,
see the
beer,
disconnect in
boobies.
communication here.
Farting.
Talked about that though.
Mm-hmm.
So we already talked about it?
We did. I'm just explaining that we're trying to. The easiest way to solve this is just to outright try to to falsify the old hypothesis. However, if we do get positive results, then we have something of a baseline to be able to take it further. And that's really all I'm pointing out. And I'm not understanding why no one is actually understanding this concept. If you've been ghost hunting for a while, you should know this is the standard, what everybody's assuming EVP is. Someone's now testing it.
Right.
How come you can't understand that? And I know that Greg brings it up in a later post where he's talking about, there's more than one way to actually prove a hypothesis. I mean, when you read that little statement on Wikipedia about the scientific method, it's very, very generalized. It's more complicated than that. That's like saying, a car runs on gas. There's a lot more to a car than it just running on gas. You got pistons working, you got oil, you have all kinds of these different moving components that have to work in tandem. It's more complicated than that. Silence.
I know. It was kind of like, okay.
That just blew you away.
Here, sorry.
You're just stunned by my awesomeness.
Yes.
Oh.
You just didn't know what to say. You took the words right out of our mouths.
And put something else in there instead.
Yes.
That gets me in trouble. Shush.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so where are we now?
God, where the fuck are we? Okay.
So we're at Michael
Seeger.
Yes.
Actually, this is kind of a response, kind of in our favor. This
Yes.
is the only one from this guy, Michael Seeger. Yeah, says, "Hey, does anyone know how the universe began as 100% fact? I thought not, but guess what? It exists. Ha ha." Okay, so that was kind of a
Yeah.
that was like
I do remember that one now. I forgot about
scientific version of a me too.
What does SMH
So we're done with
mean
that guy.
at the bottom?
Shakes my head.
Shakes my head. Okay, I don't get these.
You whip your hair back and forth.
Whoa, dude.
Okay.
Whoa. Shakes my head.
I never knew that. That's why I asked, because I was feeling a little dumb.
You didn't know that?
Well, God, I'm not the only
Okay.
dumb one.
Anyway,
I like your answer
let's
better.
keep
Goddamn,
going here.
Yeah.
Suck my hand.
We're going to try to wrap this up in this one episode.
Yes.
How?
So we're going to have to move forward a little bit. Because
All right.
what basically happens after this point, it's the same guy responding with the same rhetorical...
But I had some
Yes.
really good responses, man.
Yes, you did.
Yeah,
made me
buffoonery
very
is
happy.
good. Yeah.
So here's an interesting. Let's skip down a ways.
Okay.
Zero. Let's skip down a ways, and we're gonna start where Haunted Australia says, "I don't see a point of validity for this experiment."
Can he do it?
I don't see a point of validity for this experiment if it's based on an assumption. Spirits, do you see that? See, this is our.
Literacy is a new one.
You guys are like, I'm on page 5, you're skipping to page 10.
This is radio.
Stay with the program. Stay with the program. Come on.
Zero. This is live.
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna go past this.
An
What?
Australian too drunk to read. Who would have
Apparently that guy was. Hold on. No, you're going too far. Going too far. Come back. Come back. Give me.
This is what happens when we try to do this in a
Give
Give it
playful
to Bob. Give it to Bob.
Give me the page.
Give it to Bob.
Give Bob the papers.
Give
Good
Bob-
boy.
there you go.
Okay.
There you go.
We'll get you a Scooby snack later.
Do you want me to
Okay.
just read it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, now that I have the pages,
Oh,
Okay.
now you want to read it.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and
I
have
do
Bob
have to
paraphrase.
just come over here where Haunted Australia calls me and says, Bob Sane, Of course you wouldn't trust my response. Why would you trust someone who's grounded in reality to tell you you're wrong when you can just pseudoscience your pretty little heart out?
If he only knew who he was saying those words.
Yes,
And
exactly.
now the dick comes out.
Yes.
Fuck you, motherfucker.
Yeah, well, I mean, he actually... Okay, what he does here, and I would like to point this out, what he's doing here is he's shotgunning responses.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually another logical fallacy. If you guys know anything about critical thinking, what he's
Yes.
doing here is the rapid response thing is intended to make it so that no one can actually answer you
Right.
in
That's
a
right.
logical manner.
Right.
Confusion.
And they're confusing the issue.
Yes.
And they're boom, 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 boom. Ha! I win because no one could answer me. That's because you wouldn't shut up.
Right.
This is an Aristotelian logical fallacy. Am I wrong, Greg, or is it Plato?
No, well, I don't remember if it's Plato or
Is
Aristotle.
it Plato or
Probably.
Aristotle?
Aristotle.
But it's one of the classics. Not shutting the fuck up. That's what this guy does.
That's right.
So, where the hell was I? I've got like 5 posts of this butthead to go through.
Well, the one that Holly started was a good one, if you can find that one. How did that start, Holly?
Which one is that?
I don't remember.
She's lost.
Okay, I don't see a point of validity for this experiment if it's based, and that's not properly punctuated, whatever. I can't even talk. Who am I to say anything? If it's based on an assumption, spirits omit or even communicate with EMF. That's a conclusion drawn with zero credible foundation in fact. So this experiment does nothing to verify or qualify EMF. All it does is cover a belief with more assumptions. Why does everyone attempt to validate their experiments without first validating the theory? That's like throwing fuel into a flame to put the fire out. The realizing it didn't work, so you throw more fuel on it, putting it out. I don't know what that means, but whatever.
Okay, and then the last one after that was, if this experiment does see the light of day, I sure hope you're ready for some serious critique. Critique with extreme prejudice. Seriously, what it says right here. It's like he's threatening us now. He's going to threaten us with words. His mighty Australian peen.
That's right.
The shrimp on the Barbie is turned by
Sheila.
that.
Sheila.
Yeah, okay. No,
But that one had so much in it that was just wrong
Yes.
from every level. First he says, well, we have to, if we're going to be talking about spirits communicating, we have to first prove that spirits can communicate. And it's like, we have never said anything about spirits communicating.
Right.
So,
no, and in fact, the approach was kind of the opposite direction. Like, no, they can't do this.
yeah.
I mean, that's what
And
I
it
took
was-
from was you're trying to falsify this shit. No, they cannot actually do this.
And that's his own bias.
And yeah,
and that's it's
oh,
owned by them.
He's claiming we do.
Sorry, Wendy whipped up bias again.
Yes.
Oh God, not again.
I need more.
Shot
Come on,
time.
Greg, are
Okay.
you getting your shot?
I was ready to
I
fight.
am, yeah.
I have been avoiding that for like the last half hour, and no, you got to whip it
I
out,
was
Wendy.
ready for another one. Sorry, I
Apparently,
wanted
she's not
one.
sober enough or drunk enough or something.
But elaborate, Greg. Tell us a little
Yeah,
bit more
please
about
do. Sorry,
what your
I didn't
thoughts
get-
are.
Okay, well, I mean, first of all, like he said we have to validate that spirits can communicate and all this kind of stuff before we can do any experimentation, which is ridiculous to begin with. First, because we never mentioned that EVPs we think are, or that we're trying to prove that EVPs are spirit communication. So again, he's taking something we never said, so he's putting up a complete straw man that doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about, and trying to argue from that point that we have to do this first before we do that. And then the whole thing, I think we touched on this last week, the whole thing about having to prove a theory before you can do any experimentation. Well, no, that's not how science works. I mean, there's one way to do it. One is to start with the theory and then get predictions or hypotheses
Right.
based on the theory, and then go and test those. The other is to make observations of the world and then take those observations and try and make a theory or a hypothesis out of those observations, and then go and do experiments, because with observations, what you want to try and do is make a predictable, or something that can actually make predictions.
Right.
So that's how you test it. You make observations, you say, okay, based on these observations, this is what we think is happening. So now, since this is what we think is happening, we can go make other experiments to test whether the predictions that this hypothesis is saying actually make sense and actually work. So you don't have to prove a theory before you can actually do experimentation. And I don't know where that idea even comes from.
Boom,
Yeah.
Australia, bitch!
Well, okay.
I'm just saying.
Actually, this kind of flows into the next little bit of this thing. I'm going to go ahead and read it because Zero's out, like, feeding people booze. So,
Goodness.
next one down is provide proof that follows that the protocols that qualify it as such that EMF has any connection with the paranormal, and then move on to experimenting with gadgets. That's kind of what you just said, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I responded to that.
I know you did. I'm going to get down to that next. I'm trying to set the stage here. Now he's going to get into like compression and digital formats and things which have absolutely nothing to do with the experiment in question, because audio is compressed. Well, actually, no, audio is not. Digital audio is compressed. So first off, we're not really. He's being disingenuous here. Okay. Audio is further compressed when converted to a digital format. Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed that next sentence. He actually, I'm a dick. I'm sorry, I lied. Never mind. Audio is compressed even more depending on the file format chosen. Yeah, but we're not dealing with file formats.
No.
You know that. I'm actually not going to read the rest of this because he's talking about lossless formats and how you play basically data manipulation of the audio input itself.
In other words, this is more basically showing his knowledge level of what he's talking about.
Yeah, well,
that he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
He's whipping out a bunch of big words that sound very impressive that actually have literally nothing to do with the experiment.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, if I pull up... Yeah, what Zero said. If I pull up my guitar and I plug it into a computer... Yeah, okay, so the signal is compressed digitally to fit on the hard drive. It's a format change, and it completely invalidates. We're talking about the same thing anymore. If I just strum my guitar, you hear it, right?
Right.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the computer.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a change in venue. It's that's what I don't think he's getting here, is that we're not talking about the same thing anymore. Yeah. We're literally not talking about the same data at this point. Mm-hmm. So, right, Greg?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, and even listening with your ears, you're not hearing the sound, you're hearing the electrical impulses that your nerves make when the sound hits it. So, right. We're never hearing audio, we're hearing an interpretation of the audio.
Yeah.
Interpretation.
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 I like to interpret things.
I used finger quotes when I did that. I know you can't see
it. I know, I could for some reason.
I could see it. I really could, knowing you so well.
Interpretation.
Greg.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you something right now that's kind of off subject, but on subject. I want you to imagine Zero with a microphone, slouching in a seat with a Jason mask halfway over his face. A quarter of the way.
That's how I always imagine Zero.
I'm not slouching. Everything else is true, but I'm not slouching.
We make science fun, people.
We make science dangerously drunk. Depending on who you are, this could be a lot of fun, but
yeah.
But you have to make it that way.
We're the people that make science scary.
So what's the next part?
So, the next part is, the only question I'd like answered is, have you proven EMF has any connection to alleged paranormal activity? If the answer is yes, then please submit a report with your finding and continue testing your X-Mike theory. If the insure is no, then you jumped the gun in a major way. Major. And that's when Bob the Sane comes in.
Thank goodness.
Okay. Yeah, my next response. Actually, I was talking to two people in this response, but let's see. Going to answer Angela previously, who had some good questions.
Right.
She was actually trying to be, good about it. I said, Angela, it seems to me that the answer that we gave previously did explain what was meant by quote-unquote unknown, but it's kind of buried in the noise. Haunted Australia. Your dick is here. I'm going to kick it now. So. Haunted Australia, I'm sorry, man, but you sure do come across as a classic internet troll here. You didn't get the rise you expected from your initial hostility, so now you are ratcheting it up. Your analysis might be spot on once the paper referred to gets published, but I, for one, am unlikely to trust your responses as anything other than someone looking to offend people for some petty online power trip. In short, you're a bit of a dick. And I, for one, don't care to read any more of your spew. If someone can provide thoughtful analysis of the aforementioned paper SJJ will produce, I would love to read that. I don't think Haunted Australia is particularly interested in doing so. Mostly he bellyaches over the state of, quote-unquote, the field. Like this is some serious endeavor when it's a goddamn hobby. That was my response? That one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I actually read that earlier.
On the last episode, yeah.
Yeah.
But I responded to that.
Yeah. Cody's got a response here. Actually, you want to read it?
You do it.
Oh yeah, because you're blind. Okay, I'm gonna try to read this in the voice of the hitman. I think I see the disconnect in communication here.
No, that's not it.
You sound
That's not the right one.
like Spock.
I know.
Was that wrong, guys?
No, that was totally right.
Okay.
Totally right.
But wrong post.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
you
you're
sound-
way up there. You need to be down lower.
Way.
Oh fuck! I'm on the wrong page.
Get down there.
Get down on it.
Damn it.
Down.
Get down on it.
Get
I
down.
apologize. I'm on the wrong page, guys. Holy shit! I've got to go through like a page and a half of Haunted Australia shotgunning shit.
Can we just leave that out?
Let's get back to my actual response here, okay?
All right.
Sorry, my apologies. We just wasted minutes of time here.
Yeah.
I'm skipping over a page and a half. You guys can go read it on Facebook. It's all immortalized for the world where the world can see it.
Yeah.
On Worst Paranormal.
HA, which is my short for Haunted Australia. I don't trust your responses because they are rooted in aggressive behavior, liberally sprinkled with pointless insults and logical fallacy, and they are. I'll prove it later. You fire off post after post in rapid succession without even a pause between them, all for the purpose of further antagonizing your target of the week. I imagine you sitting in your chair, spittle flying in impotent rage that someone would dare call you what you are, a troll. Your very name highly suggests the investigator bias you so liberally accuse others of in the most derogatory manner. You appear to think that this is a serious field of scientific endeavor, when it is at best a hobby, albeit one we all do take seriously. And yet I have seen no evidence of your own qualifications, quote-unquote, aside from a solid display of armchair science. And really, it's not that solid when you get into it. But anyway, so given all of these factors, your words frankly have precisely zero significance to me at this point, and I have finished wasting my time on a small man with delusions of being the internet version of a tin pot dictator. Go ahead, rage in your little corner, taking yourself so fucking seriously. I, meanwhile, shall sip my coffee and laugh at your buffoonery. Cheers!
Lovely.
Ha
I love that.
And there was Larry. Who says, why does this look so familiar? It doesn't. You obviously didn't read my last post. Someone else go here.
All right,
I'm out of
I'll
steam.
be Larry. My name's Larry. Why does this look so familiar? When questioned, they ignore the questions and resort to arguing. Oh, wait! To you, it's a hobby where you can write it to bullshit those who lack critical thinking skills. So it's a hobby. Why claim to perform bullshit experiments? Not quite as bad as the one lady who claimed it's for entertainment purposes only. But then again, it seems to have become a giant parody full of those who are serious and those who want to look at me. That kind of sounded like the mom from Back to the Future.
Yeah, you kind of did.
Yeah.
And my
You're
response,
right. You're always right.
And my response, oh, I do take it seriously personally, and as far as I can see above, questions were in fact answered, or the answers will be forthcoming soon. What I do not take seriously is him, Haunted Australia.
Yes.
You speak of critical thinking skills. I will present to you in his above ranch the following logical fallacies: straw man, red herring, and ad hominem. There's actually more, but those are the three I started with. As far as how serious, quote-unquote, our quote-unquote field is, there's a reason why every parapsychology program in the world was shuttered long ago, a complete lack of reproducible results. In case you don't know what that means at home, little boys and girls, reproducible means you can actually do the same thing over and over again. This is called science. If you can't get the same result repeatedly, you're not doing science. What you're doing is jacking off.
Yeah, which is only
So,
self-gratifying.
therefore, not science in the eyes of the scientific world at large. We are nothing more than hobbyists. Truth hurts. But it's there, so... That's right. Zero's name has become a killing word. And it is unlikely that this will change in the eyes of science anytime soon. So, there you go. That's what it boils down to. We like to say we're doing science. We're not, guys. I mean, we can follow scientific protocols. We can...
You know, we went over
I'm
this,
about to brain him.
we went over this in an episode, and I even put it this way. I said, because of the past, because of people like Uri Geller, who duped a lot of scientists and kind of... It trash their careers if you look at the effect of it. Science isn't, it's like climbing Everest, and they're not just going to go up and go, we're going to climb Everest now. The way that's made possible is by the Sherpas, who have made the trail and placed oxygen for them and made their little base camps. We're like the Sherpas. There's not a single ghost hunting group, paranormal research society, that's going to prove this. It's beyond our ability to do so. When a paper is peer-reviewed, the very first thing they look at is what are your qualifications to do this research? The letters behind your name. What qualifies you? That's where we're going to fall short. Even if you have that together, you got to understand what your limitations are. The whole point is to make it where it's at least safe for them to go up Everest. So, there you go.
We started here. We're down to here. Stop throwing stuff.
There you go.
Your nose
apparently
is
Zero
dirty.
is checked out.
You have caca on your nose.
But do you say that's right, Greg? Is that kind of like an accurate representation?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, the other thing that's really missing in the whole thing is that real science takes a lot of money, and we're never going to have the funds to do real science as a hobby.
No,
I mean, you can do little experiments like we're doing, and you can enjoy doing that, which I think is why we do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not to change the world. It's to satisfy our own curiosity, and because it's fun.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Greg, we're at that point now in this conversation where
I try to come in and be an adult.
Where you do come in and you say, you politely give them the finger and you tell them, go ahead and sit and spin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I do say. I mean, I was kind of responding to Larry and saying that we haven't been responding to the points, but so I went through, and we've covered a lot of this in the conversation so far, but tried to address all the ridiculous points that Haunted Australia had brought up. And the one that I did agree with him was the part about calibrating the instrumentation, because that's something that you do want to do. And that was, to me, that was, of all his spewing, that was probably the most valid point he had.
Right.
But we are doing that. We're doing it as a relative thing, not an absolute. But we are, with the video that we had on the site about, using the coil in the headphone jack to kind of produce an EM field and measure it. That's kind of a calibration test, too. So he did have a point there. Finally, I have to give him at least one kudo that he had a point. But, with the shotgun approach, he was bound to hit something. So, but, I think most of what we've talked about is things that we've already covered here, so I'm not going to go through my long, drawn-out answer.
Yeah.
But I did try to really answer his questions and not be too much of a not kind of call him an idiot, which is what I wanted to do. But I think the other thing that he did is, this is where I brought up the point about that. Let's see, I've got it in front of me. I'm trying to find it here. Okay, the thing about alternate hypotheses. In one of his rants, he was saying that he gave basically an alternate hypothesis. He said EVPs are noise compression, distortion captured on cheap audio equipment with microphones that aren't fit for purpose, further distorted by the file format of which it is captured with, and then perpetuated and promoted by bias and belief, period.
Right.
So I basically said, that's a hypothesis. Go ahead and prove it. And I said, I'll be happy to peer review it. And that's the kind of thing I mean. It's so easy to spew that kind of stuff and say that there's no basis in that fact. There's as much basis in what he's saying there as there is in what we're saying.
Right.
And so the fact that he feels free that he can say that kind of stuff and put out a hypothesis with no backup, no data, no nothing, and say that's an argument against what we're doing is, to me, very disingenuous.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. So after this, it really kind of winds down a little bit.
It does.
But there's one important thing we got to cover, because Angela, we haven't responded to one of her questions. I don't live on Facebook. I just don't. But the other thing is, when I did come on, I'm kind of distracted by the dialogue going on between Bob and Haunted Australia. But she's asking more particular questions about a research project we did where we're saying that paranormal phenomenon repeats. And at the bottom of it, it says, we found that some of these things were explainable. And she's basically saying, okay, what's the deal? How can you have explainable and unexplainable be in the same article, blah, blah, blah. And I explained it the best I could.
Yeah.
That A, she is correct. That needs to be clarified. That's kind of what I was wanting out of this is, can you find something that's, a little off that maybe was overlooked? But as Bob and I were talking about this on the way up here before he started drinking.
I'm not sure there ever was a time I was actually sober, but yeah, you will go with that.
We'll go with that.
Go ahead and ruin my reputation there, Hitman. Go ahead. Yeah. Tell people I was sober once.
One time, a long time ago, I saw Bob sober. It scared me.
You saw him.
And I gave him a beer.
Anyway.
The whole point of it was, I'm working on. I knew I did this before, and what I can't figure out, did I rename the file wrong, and it just didn't upload, or is it setting in there under a different name or what? But I know I worked on it, because where this whole thing was eventually going was the Society of Psychic Research initially came up with this whole hypothesis of paranormal phenomenon repeats. As we got into it and started finding similar results, we also found that these quasi-normal events, the things that are explainable but happen rarely, also repeat.
Yeah.
But
actually,
the biggest...
hold on. We should give examples of a normal, repetitive, quasi-normal event. I would throw out earthquake lights.
That's one.
That's explainable.
At the chemo.
Happens rarely, but,
The chemo's another good one.
Right.
The apparition. All right.
Yeah.
What it is when you have a vehicle with the headlights over 4 feet high. We're talking a big truck.
Yeah.
Turning right, the lights shine in the hallway, bounce off mirrors, and it looks kind of like out of the corner of your eye, you see an apparition go by.
Yeah.
Happens rarely because most trucks don't go downtown Albuquerque.
Well, and the lights have to be just the right height.
And the right height, exactly.
And just like with earthquake lights, you have to have the right amount of certain types of minerals in the ground, plus the right amount of gas, certain types of gas in the air above the fault. When it slips, boom, you get earthquake lights, but not all the time.
Right.
So, yeah, there are weird things that happen. So, anyway, go ahead.
The relevance of this is simple. The challenge of doing paranormal research or investigation, or even just ghost hunting, is it's not black and white. You have to understand that, one, there is witness bias. If they believe in the paranormal, their worldview is gauged that way, and that's how they perceive reality. There's witness bias, certainly. You also have myth building, which is humans are storytellers. Is this just someone adding to the story?
Yeah, you and I
if you understand,
for 2 hours a couple nights ago about this exact thing. So
if you understand that the study has shown that if it's paranormal or explainable, okay, this is what you should look at. If you're looking for the repeating things. If you start pulling out things that aren't repeating, like a demon scratched my back, or something that's not in the standard repeating procedure, that is the bias or the myth building. You shouldn't be focused on explaining that stuff or leaving, investigating that particular element. You want to focus on the repeating things. And if you do that, then you go, all right, now we're going to try to figure it out. We'll investigate. We're going to try to use critical thinking to figure out what it is. If we can't, then you add in the more believing element, the ghost hunt, trying to collect some kind of data that might support that the fact that something unusual is happening there. So that's the whole end game of it. But yeah. But she was correct. That was a really good call.
Yeah.
It's something that I overlooked.
Well, that's kind of what we were looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
The noise, the signal to noise ratio in this entire conversation has been kind of insane. And I will freely admit, I played into it because I had a chew toy. I had somebody I was having fun shaking.
Well, that's just
died.
You.
Well, I cannot abide odious individuals like that. That dick needed to be kicked repeatedly in the throat until dead.
Now, if you guys...
Fuck that guy.
I know we got a lot of new listeners. And listen to the old episodes of Ecto Radio when it was just me and Bob, and you'll get a hold of his personality, and yeah, you'll understand where he's coming from a little better.
I don't suffer fools lightly.
Well, he grows on you. It's kind of like drinking
Kind of like
whiskey.
a fungus.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste. Yeah.
What, are we gonna continue this for next week or what?
No, I think we're good. I mean, I think we've kind of what's happened with this thing is how many actual posts are there?
41.
41. We're talking, what, 3 or 4 people out of a group of 680.
80.
Well, no one else seems to
Actually
want to
even
respond.
responded.
No one else seems to want to respond even. It's
Yeah,
just kind of
They
Throw
had,
down-
hold on, they had 670, but after this started 680.
yeah. We brought
It was
them,
one
we
of
brought
those
them traffic.
tell your friends.
Yeah.
But
Hey, look at the fight going on.
and despite that, I mean, it's just stopped. But the gauntlet's been done, thrown down twice. Once by Greg, once by Bob. Hey, if any of you else have done research, actually, please present it.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, going back to the whole thing. My point of all of this and this whole fiasco is this. There cannot be a peer review of ghost hunting or paranormal research or whatever just yet.
Well, no.
And
to have a peer review, you first have to have recognized peers.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And this is the problem. We don't. These guys are claiming, okay, we're going to call the people out, and we're going to do blah, 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 blah.
No, what you're
All
doing
right,
is-
now, here's the point. In a group that is actually trying to do science, now we can debate how accurate we are. Sure, I'm willing to discuss that. I'm willing to learn more. A group that does that actually presents their stuff. And then this circus ensues.
Yeah, this is what we get.
All you're doing is they're the same jackasses that they claim to debunk. You're just on the other end of the spectrum.
Well, I believe I even say at one point that he is as bad with his virulent anti-believer bias as the believer bias.
Exactly.
On the
That's
one
what-
side, you got the guys who'll believe anything you tell them. Open brain case, insert crap, and it sticks. And then there's this guy who he's like his brain is Teflon coated. Nothing sticks. I'm surprised he believes that 2 + 2 = 4. He's a complete non-believer. They're not skeptics. Okay, now we're going to get into one of my big beefs. I mentioned earlier tonight. Bad skeptics fucking piss me off.
Well, how
because they're
many
not
shows have we
skeptics.
done on that? The bad skeptic shows.
It's been long enough. I haven't been here for one in like 4 years. So
Okay,
it's my
all
time.
right. I'll give you your rant.
This guy's probably going to try to pass as, oh, you can't handle skeptical criticism and examination. No, I can. Because I consider myself to be a skeptic. A skeptic is someone who does not know the answer. This guy has decided the answer and is trying to find shit to fit it. All right, he's talking about Rupert Sheldrake at one point in one of his previous posts. Oh, well, he believes in angels. This is called poisoning the well. It's a subset of the ad hominem attack, which is a logical fallacy, in case anybody wants to know this shit, right? Where you take one thing that you don't agree with that the rest of society might also think is weird, and use that to invalidate everything else the scientist is saying. Logical fallacy. Actually, kind of an insidious one, too. It's one of the nastier ones. So what if Rupert Sheldrake believes in angels? So what? Who cares? Does that invalidate his science?
No.
There's a lot of scientists who believe in angels. There's a lot of scientists who believe in Jesus or Buddha or whatever. Does that invalidate their science? No, it fucking does not. Just because someone does not believe in the same thing you do does not mean that their science is invalid. It means that you are a dick. Thank you.
Amen.
Good
Hallelujah.
man.
Yay.
Greg, over to you.
Well, the other thing I wanted to bring up, is that for a while there, he was trying to win by getting us to take our stuff down, and I think that's in a lot of what I've seen in Worst Paranormal. That's a lot of times what happens is people give, they pick a site, they look at what they're doing, they give them all this crap, and the people back off and they take their stuff down. And for a while he was saying, well, since you said this was premature, you should take it down, blah blah blah. And it's like, well, no. What we meant by premature is that it wasn't designed to be peer reviewed. In other words, we didn't go into the detail that we could have gone into to try and explain what we were doing better. We figured people had some knowledge of what we were trying to do already, and that's what we mean by premature. We still stand by what we're doing. And I think that's when he kind of said, well, I don't know if the only way I'm going to win this argument is to keep yelling until everybody gets sick of me and leaves, and then I can say I won because I'm the last one talking.
Right.
Or post a video of, a guy with Slimer on his belly and jumping up and down. That was like his final comment.
Oh, dude, I quit. I stopped looking
Yeah.
at the thread. So
Yeah, that's the last thing in the thread is, this little short of the guy
But-
with the belly.
I think the last one I read was when he said he was drunk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, what the hell was with that?
Yeah.
I gave him this. Hey, I volleyed it into your court. What do you come back with? Herp-a-derp, I'm going down a drunken Australian with the beers a herk-a-dirk. And now fuck you because my science peen is science. What?
Yeah.
The fuck does that even mean? Fuck you.
I think his brain short-circuited.
You
Well,
broke
he's
him, Bob.
Australian.
Yeah, you
But
broke them.
here's the thing that really, I was really hoping that this would be a more educational review, and it would be honest. There's something that really does upset me because, first of all, the people that are administrating this site, if they were serious about doing peer reviews, they should be moderating this kind of crap
Yeah,
so it
there is no
doesn't
moderation at
evolve.
all.
There was
Exactly.
zero moderation.
Well, I told
None.
him I should have been called on my crap immediately, but I wasn't. I mean, frankly, okay, then to be totally honest here, guys, I attacked this guy repeatedly over and over again and picked his shit apart, but I was attacking him. I insulted him.
Right.
This is an ad hominem attack. I was employing the exact same logical fallacies I accused him of. Nobody called me on my shit.
No one called him on his.
Nobody called him on his. There was no moderation. None whatsoever.
And
This is not a peer review. This is not a good peer review site. These people are only looking to pick fights, and when you stand up for yourself, they just kind of clam up, except for one guy who dug his grave even worse. So,
But and it's like the whole thing. If this was a serious peer review, if it was in a legitimate science and it was being peer reviewed, you would have moderation. In fact, the moderator would probably pick the peer reviewers.
Mhm.
I think Greg brought that up last
That would
time.
be the editor, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And that's what the editor does. And in real peer review, too, you have people who, one, know what they're talking about, and two, I mean, this was a good experience because if we ever do try to do real peer review, we're going to have the same kind of pushback, only these people are going to be smart. So when they have the same biases, one, they'll hide them better, and two, they'll be smart in what they come back with. So it is a difficult thing to do, which is one of the reasons that papers and peer review of paranormal papers are so rarely published, is because it really is difficult to get past the ingrained science biases out there, and the people who are going to be reviewing your stuff are smart enough to be able to make you look bad.
You're right. But not these guys.
But not these guys. These
Yeah.
guys were like mental midgets.
But there you go. Well, we're going to leave it at that. So 2
Yeah.
episodes. Granted, this one is almost an hour, but
Greg,
Yes.
thank you so much for Skyping
You're
in.
welcome.
It's so nice
And
to have you.
don't ever submit our stuff to Worst Paranormal again.
I'm going to submit
Yes,
it
it is good.
tomorrow. I have another
Yeah.
Facebook site that I'm actually looking into to submitting it.
Holly?
Oh, please, no.
Holly?
Holly.
Please don't make me spank your butt.
Yeah.
Don't threaten me with a good time, motherfucker.
Holly, if you do it again, then you're responsible for responding to all the
Also,
crap.
hey, Greg.
Yeah,
Greg, you and I have never met face to face, but I kind of feel like you're my spiritual brother, man.
I know.
I
That's why I
have
was
to
sad
tell
that I
you.
couldn't get down to that.
You're much higher in the scientific screw you bitch my shit works thing than I am.
You know,
But in some small pathetic way, I like to think that I kind of built a platform that you then stood upon, crushed in the mud with your own peen, and then went further.
I have to say that the one thing that myself and Hitman and Wendy and Zero and other people in the group have always said is that we are so lucky to have Greg.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're gonna make me cry.
Hell yeah.
He has really come into this group and has been able to completely start research
that.
projects and we adore you.
Well, and I'll have to say, the only reason I joined this group was because you guys had your shit together when it came to really understanding what science was. I'm not going to join some group that's just going out there and any little noise they hear is somebody telling them that they're coming to kill them or whatever. You know, I want somebody. I want a group that is going to take the science part serious, and otherwise I wouldn't have joined you to begin with.
Yeah, and we
So,
appreciate
kudos to you guys.
I love you, Greg.
You know, I think it's just we were always fortunate, even from day one. We always had someone with a scientific background in the group.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way.
Yeah, where my science failed, someone else has always picked up the flag and carried on.
You know, we had Carlton, and then
Yeah.
Bob came in, and then once Bob left, then, Greg comes in. I mean, we've always been fortunate, and I think it's just where we are.
Hey, I make a difference too.
I was gonna say Holly here
I'm
is
just kidding.
Holly's little saint.
Now Holly's
Mine,
different.
so.
Holly got into this. You weren't going to college.
No.
She got in, and it was back when we were doing Nightfall.
Yeah.
And she went on and okay, cool. She knew Sherry, who was a member of our group at that time.
Yeah.
And Sherry, oh yeah, I got this waitress. And I remember at the time we weren't really looking at members like, oh, waitress. Ugh. And well, eventually we got around to interviewing her. She came in. She got interested in this stuff and went, wow, this is interesting. I want to go further with this.
Yeah. Turns out she was like one of the best
went in and
things that ever happened to the group. So.
Oh.
So she went in and actually is going back to school to learn physics.
Yeah. How many people go back to college to major in physics just so they can be a better ghost hunter? I would throw that big ass gauntlet down to all you people out there. I mean, damn. Holly,
Thanks, guys.
me love you long time.
Oh, thanks. And you know what? It does. It just keeps getting better. I mean, we wish we could have Bob back, but we do have new members coming in, like Sibby, who's a really smart gal. She's been on Ecto before. She is sharp as a tack. And I mean, I think that, if we could just get Bob back, our group would just. Right now we're at 98. If we could get Bob back, we'd be at 100%.
Yeah, that's great. That doesn't help.
At least Bob comes back for guest appearances.
Every 4 years.
I know.
That's going to change.
Yeah.
I was told by your wife that was changing.
Yeah, my wife plans to send me back at least once a year now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Hail to that.
So cool. So that's it.
Bitch, some of us got to work for a living.
We're going to talk off air, but that's it for the formal podcast
Yeah, we're
thing.
done.
Right?
Well, thank you, Greg, for Skyping in.
You bet.
Yeah, thanks,
We'll do it
Greg.
again
See you
sometime.
soon.
Greg, I just got to say, I am so happy that you're involved in this because, wow, I'm in awe of
No, he's thankful because if you weren't involved, I would be calling him
every week.
I just got this idea. Dude, it's 3 a.m, but I got an idea. And now I can just bounce it off you, and then
No,
Yeah,
you get
sleep.
some real science muscle here now, not the fake shit that I bring. So.
No, don't sell yourself
Yeah,
short, Bob.
don't, Bob. Don't sell yourself short.
have another shot. It's time.
Yeah, shot time.
Well, thank you for...
Podcast-wise, we'll see you guys
Yes.
next week. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.